Bishop Jean-Marie Benoit did not commit a suicide but was brutally murdered. A declaration is from bishops of Cameroon during a press briefing in Yaoundé this week. The president of the National Episcopal Conference of Cameroon, Samuel Kleda, decried the numerous murder of priests in Cameroon. Donate your blood and save our lives. The message was re-echoed this week as Cameroon joined the rest of the world to observe World Blood Donor Day. We'll equally talk about the General Certificate of Education examinations that kicked off this week. The program is News Roundup of the Week. Stay with us. I'm called Ndih Maureen, and as usual, I'm delighted to be with you. Before we refresh our memories on some news-making events of the week, I'd like us to receive our guest in the course who is going to be with us in the course of the program. He is a journalist and communicator of the Cameroon Chamber of Commerce, Mines and Handicraft. Charles Akoye, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. I'm happy for this invitation.
Now, what particularly caught your attention this week as far as news events are concerned?
Well, like you rightly said from your introduction, the news-making event that boggles many minds is the suspected death of the Archbishop of Bafia. And the Episcopal Conference came out this week hard on that. And just the statement they made us to understand there's much to it than the eye can see. And so we're expecting that the investigations are ongoing, should bring out more about the death of the Archbishop.
Now we're going to talk about that. I want us to watch this report on World Blood Donor Day that was observed this week with a clarion call for Cameroonians to donate their blood and save lives. Let's watch this report. I will be right back.
Donate blood now, donate blood often. This is a central message as Cameroon joined the world on June 15, 2017 to celebrate the World Blood Donor Day. At the Douala General Hospital, hundreds of volunteers answered the call to donate blood and help save lives. The procedure is rigorous.
People who come to donate blood are received just at the gate. And we gather them, we offer each person a number. You go and we take the parameter. After you follow a consultation, and after the consultation, you can be returned to give or not. You can be qualified or not. If you are qualified, you are sent to the room where we collect the blood from the patient. And after that place where we collect the blood, you are sent where you are going to take a cup of milk, something to eat before leaving.
But what makes a blood donor eligible to give blood?
When you come to donate blood, you are what we call a candidate to donate blood. But are you able to donate? You don't know. It's up to us. As we work in the hospital to know whether you are able or not. But if you have, for example, a disease which can be transmitted to the person who receives blood, we will not collect blood from you. There are so many cases. For a woman, a pregnant woman, for example, cannot donate blood. If you yourself you don't have enough blood, you cannot donate blood. So you must have enough in order to give.
Once the blood samples are collected, they are tested for blood group, status, HIV, hepatitis B and C, and syphilis. After the test, the good blood samples are kept and the bad ones destroyed. The blood collected is separated in 3 blood banks of categories: plasma, red blood cells, and platelets. Reason why medics say blood donated by one person can save 3 lives. Donating blood, many say, is rewarding.
This is a very special day for me because giving just my blood can save a life, and it's a sign of love, and I'm really happy.
Blood donated can help save lives, especially in emergency situations like accidents or a woman at gestation and other emergency cases.
It is with songs and march past that denizens of Kumbu, Bui Division in northwest Cameroon, marked World Blood Donors Day. The sensitization march was championed by the Blood Donors Association of the Bansop Baptist Hospital. The actors went round the town of Kumbu calling on people to voluntarily donate blood and help save lives. People who donated said they are proud to be blood donors.
It's really a good responsibility, and it is a good thing to be a blood donor. I choose to be a blood donor because when you get to the hospital, you see the way people are suffering in the hospital. And at times, some guys have decided to specialize in blood commercialization. And so I thought it wise that if I become a voluntary blood donor, this will be able to go a long way to save lives and also to save people from spending money.
For others, giving blood is essential as it helps save desperate lives.
Many people come into the hospital and they are desperate when they ask them to donate blood or to give blood to their patients. So when I saw it like that, I thought that that's the only gift I can give to humanity by donating my blood to help people that I don't know.
A talk on the importance of donating blood followed, and participants at the session were educated on how the blood collected is used. At the end of the day, blood donors were given certificates as proof of their volunteerism.
The inhabitable state of this classroom tells of a place of known activity. Benches, blackboard, all a reflection of the crisis that has plagued the education sector in the northwest and southwest region of Cameroon. In this school in Mutengene, southwest Cameroon, students who have been out of school for more than 6 months today struggle to do last-minute revision ahead of the GC examinations. For some instructors, these students are not ready.
We are not even take the half of the syllabus, and from the syllabus is where they do set the exam for CAP. Now children are not even going up to 3/4 of the syllabus, half they are not even going. Then what do you expect children to write?
However, for others, some measures have been taken to prepare the students.
My students are ready to write. Anyway, the schools have not been going on quite all right. But as a matter of fact, GCE syllabus begins from Form 3, and even some subjects from 1 and 2. And if you look at lower seat work, most of the things have already been done in lower seat. And if you look at some subjects like paper 1 in ordinary level, at least 75% of the questions are coming from 3, from 4. 15% are coming from 5.
Students of Form 5 and upstate have expressed unreadiness for the exams.
Affected us in so many ways, because when we started the classes from in early August, we knew that we would perform well there.
However, for others, they are ready to face their fate.
Actually, when the school began this year, we all thought we were going to write and all pass. So after some time, we started this problem about the strike type of thing. Everybody was discouraged. So on my own side, I thought I would not write this year, but they came back telling me they are going to write. I never had any choice than to read. This is just now that we are just preparing ourselves to write on Monday.
Some are positive, but are afraid if their certificate will be valid.
5. As for my own opinion, I want to write the GCE, and I'm ready to write it, even if I've not read or not. And I know that I will write by God's grace. It has affected me because the time that they started striking, I was not reading. But our teacher said that we should forget about it.
The government of Cameroon has on its part taken measures to ensure students write in serenity. In Mutengene, students from all schools will write at the government bilingual high school Mutengene.
18-year-old Bonka Evudo is a student of Remedia Bilingual Comprehensive High School, Buea. The ongoing crisis in the southwest region of Cameroon has pushed him to write the examination at Government Bilingual High School Deito, Douala, Cameroon.
Because of the problems we are facing there, the problems of strike, which made us not more to go to school. So that was the reason for the rush to come here to Douala, to have a means to write the exam.
Bonka Ivulo is sitting for the examination for the second time and wants to pass the examination despite all odds.
It is better than there because there is very dangerous. It is better to write where you are in security.
Nga Domel is another candidate sitting in for the GC ordinary levels. Just like his mate, he was forced to travel from the northwest region of Cameroon to the littoral to write the GC ordinary level.
The political situation and stabilization is not good for us students to purchase our education. So every day there's ghost town there. We don't even have even classes or teachers that are even available to give us even classes. So that's why we prefer to come here to Douala and continue our education here.
Both candidates told me special measures have been taken for them to write the exams like any other candidate.
They have provided a special class for us, and they take care of us normally. They take our numbers, everything normally as possible, and they take care of the accuracy of the work that is.
Most of the candidates are still in fear as they continue to question the validity of the certificate as carried on social media.
They usually tell us that the certificate is not valued, but we need to make it to prove that we have done it, we have tried our best before.
Candidates were ferried in from the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon to write the GCE in Douala were identified through their uniforms of their schools of origin. This is Government Bilingual High School Deito, one of the accommodation centers for the GC ordinary and advanced levels examinations in Cameroon's economic city, Douala. Security is at its maximum. No media was accepted to go closer to the examination hall. Getting information on the state of the exams was difficult as even the chief of center and the head of the secretariat could not open up to the media. However, some of the candidates were seen roaming around the campus. They say they are conscious of the crisis in the two English-speaking regions of the country. We had no choice but to focus on candidates who had just written the first paper of the day, which is economy.
Population, international trade, all the things came, demand and supply, and we answered perfectly because throughout the year what we have already studied, it was there, and I'm really sure that God will help us this year and we are going to give 1% to the school.
It comes population, international trade, banking, finance, all stuff.
Is it what you were expecting?
Not really, but not that surprised because we were well prepared.
Paper 1, it was 50 multiple choice question, and there was all the topics. Money and banking, demand and supply, all the topics were included in the papers, in the question sheets, and we answered all the questions, madam.
We are not actually confident, but we believe that we are going to make it. Despite the fact that some other students have not write, but we believe that those that have decided to write this year are going to make it because the question was a little bit nice and cheap.
Candidates say they remain focused until the end of the exams come June 30, 2017.
Over 26,000 pupils across the Southwest region sat for the first school leaving certificate examination for the English subsystem and Certificat d'études primaires for the French subsystem of education. In the Southwest, the exams were supervised by the Minister of Basic Education, Yusuf Ali Majija, accompanied by the Governor of the Southwest, Bernard Okalai Bilai. The minister started her visit at Government Primary School Likoko Membia and thereafter proceeded to other centers around Fako and Meme divisions. While at these centers, the minister appreciated parents who took out time to accompany the children to write the exams. This was mainly for security purpose. A good number of absences were recorded at some centers. For example, at Government Primary School Group 1 Moyuka, that recorded 118 absences. The exams unfolded hitch-free as forces of law and order were stationed at all examination centers.
Government Bilingual High School Esos Yaoundé, GC Examination Center for 9 schools. Center also for students who registered in the southwest and northwest regions but are presently in Yaoundé. This GC 2017 room 26 is one of such special rooms with these special students writing out of their regions, schools and registered centers.
When the candidates register in the northwest or the southwest regions, and because of one or two reasons they cannot write there, and they come this way, we should not reject them if they have their identification papers, say their national identity card or their and their timetables. It is normal. They are like the normal candidates who registered here in the center. The only difference is that they left their own centers and came and wrote here. This is a special instruction given by the registrar of the GC board.
Here they are, going in for the second paper on this first day of the written part of the GCE O and A level examinations. Jacob Mbayu is from GBHS downtown Bamenda, who, like the sister, are determined to give their best.
The first paper was not really too bad, but as from my own opinion, it was bad because what I saw, we did not really study on it, and we did not have classes up to that level. So the little I know from 3 and 4, I investigate on it. The paper 2, if it's the same, it will be very bad for me.
The first paper was not really bad. It was nice. It's okay. Then the second paper, we were trying our best.
Varied reactions, especially after paper 1 economics for O and A levels and geology for advanced level.
I was just like thinking the exam would just be like a normal Form 1, Form 2 exam, but when I made the paper 1, I found out that if I cannot prepare well for the paper 2, I may not make it.
The first paper was not too difficult, not too easy. It was just there manageable.
It was out of my reach. But we hope paper 2 will also be like paper 1.
I find it easy because I prepared very well for it. Some of the questions that I thought could not come, but I was surprised that they came and I was ready to answer them.
A hitch-free day 1 confirmed by school authority.
The beginning of the GC started on a positive note.
The written part of exams organized by the GC board has effectively kicked off this June 12, with some over 130,000 students sitting in the written part of the ordinary and advanced levels here in Cameroon.
Welcome back. I am accompanied by Charles Ako. He is a journalist and the communicator of the Cameroon Chamber of Commerce, Mines and Handicraft. Now, you just watched a series of reports on World Blood Donor Day. Now, why are Cameroonians are still reluctant to donate their blood?
Well, I think it's a matter of communication and culture, because Cameroonians are not used to donating blood. And if you followed up what the coordination unit of the blood donating institution in Yaoundé was saying, the problem is we Cameroonians don't even understand why we have to give our blood to others. There's no enough communication on this very important health issue. And if you listen to the minister, he made a startling revelation that it's only 20% of Cameroonians who are interested in donating blood. So what should we do? Where does the problem lie? I think the problem lies with a lot of communication and education to let people out there, even in the villages, to know how important it is to donate blood. Because illnesses related to blood are not those that are much more communicated to the person out of cities, for example, like Douala. It has to go beyond the cities where much about the talk of blood is said. And so I think we have to put an accent on communication to let the people understand why it is important to donate blood. And
so to your opinion, how should communication be done?
I think it's...
If they have to sensitize the population and reach even those in villages, because we have World Blood Donor Day, they come up, government comes up and gives a lot of strategy, but after that...
Unfortunately, we always come to talk about salient issues when we have specific days that are set aside for that. It should be a continual process where the Ministry of Communication and those detached institutions charged with educating the public on the need to donate blood should be doing. It should be continuous. It should not be spontaneous. That when we have World Blood Donors Day, that's when we come up with that. No. It should be an issue that has to break down from top to down. District hospitals should be informed. Regional hospitals should be informed. Why not even councils in villages to let the people know the importance of this? It's only when you are sick.
So does it mean that Cameroonians don't know the importance of donating their blood?
If you listen to the minister, he said just about 20% of Cameroonians are interested. It means that the importance of donating blood has not gone down to the people down there. There is something wrong. Either it is communication or people voluntarily refuse to donate blood. And you know, we have the phobia that when you have to donate blood, they have to test you on certain illnesses. And there are some Cameroonians who are headstrong to know every those illnesses that they know that affect them because they feel they'll be stigmatized.
Can we not put it that way?
There are some who are afraid.
Who are afraid to know their status,
because
or to know they have hepatitis,
if
they
you
have
tell
HIV,
somebody, for example,
they don't even want to know about it.
They don't want to know. And so they know that if they have to go to donate blood, they have to be tested. And the results have to be revealed to them. And it will be a stigma to them, even if it has to be personal. So we have to educate the public on what it has to take for you to be a blood donor.
But it's the same thing if you have a dying mother and you have to donate blood.
Yes.
Now what do?
It becomes a personal issue because you choose between leaving your mother to die or you donating the blood. So you are now you are an instrument. You are like between the wall and the hammer. So you need at that level to save your mother, and that is where it becomes so binding. But if it's just something like general, well, it's not so compelling.
Now, have you ever donated your blood?
Not yet.
Why?
Well, I've not come to a point where I'll have to do that, but I think I will have to do that because if you listen to the minister, you listen to the problems we have with regards to blood donation, I think it's a clarion call for each Cameroonian to reflect and think whether it is good or not to donate blood. For me, I think it's a condition sine qua non for each and everyone to think to donate blood because you may have blood today, tomorrow you may not have blood, and you will need somebody's blood to keep you alive. So
now
why don't you
know
take
had
the
any
challenge?
situation where a family member is dying and needs blood and you try to intervene, or a family member calling you to help?
Well, I can remember my mother had a problem with blood. Unfortunately, or fortunately, one of my siblings had the same blood group and it was donated before I even got to the village. The situation was solved. I think that was an eye-opener for the family, and that's why I think it's an encouraging factor for me to do that too.
Now, those who have donated blood and when they go to the hospital, when their family in the situation in need of blood, they say it is costly, and the procedure too.
Well, it is costly, the procedure, yes. But you know, if you have to save life, you need to follow those strict procedures because you need to test the blood to see if it's the blood group that the patient needs, to see if that blood is free from infections. That's why you need to be very careful. You take specific steps to make sure that the blood you are giving out is clean and is compatible with the patient who needs it. I think even if the process is cumbersome, we just need to be patient and have it done.
But it is costly too.
It's costly. Well, I think the government, if I have to...
People have testified of going to the hospital to buy blood and it's very expensive.
And the Minister of Health did acknowledge that. And I think he talked about the possibility of government subventions to trim down costs. And if government has to come in with subventions, that would be a good idea. But we should not just be discouraged by the fact that it is expensive. It is expensive because the blood banks are not full. We don't have enough blood in the blood banks. If the blood banks were having enough blood, I think the cost will be reduced.
So the solution is that Cameroonians should freely donate blood anytime?
Of course, they should.
And any day?
That culture should be inculcated into Cameroonians, yes.
Now, what analysis do you make of government's policy to make sure that we have enough blood in the blood banks?
That is what I was saying earlier on, that they need there's the need for enough communication. Government needs to communicate intensively on the need to get Cameroonians donate blood. Because, like I said earlier, it is not in our culture, it is not in our psyche to donate blood. And traditionalists will say that if you donate blood, you tend to influence the lineage or the blood link which a family has. And so it is still in the minds of traditionalists who feel that when you juxtapose and mix blood, it becomes a problem in terms of inheritance and the genealogy of the family. So the government needs to tell the people what it takes to donate blood, why it takes to donate blood, and how they need to overcome the difficulties involved in blood donation. And that is why I was insisting on the fact that there needs to be a lot of communication, sensitization, and education of the public on the need for blood donation.
Now, on Tuesday this week, the Minister of Public Health officially presented the 2015-2020 document on the national policy and strategic plan on blood transfusion in Cameroon. This, he says, will provide the country with secure, efficient, and long-lasting blood transfusion system. Now, is that a way forward? Do you see that as a way forward?
Well, if the roadmap is clearly defined, that would be better. But the problem is, once we define roadmaps in Cameroon, we know that there's this problem of follow-up, where too often we let good programs die out like that until when we come to a strong wall, when we need to remedy a situation, that's where we go to dust off such programs. I think if the minister puts in place such a program, there should be a clear follow-up and periodic reports to see how these programs are progressing. But it's not just coming to announce programs, no, but it is announcing, following up, evaluating to see the results. I think the minister should follow up on that.
Bishop Jean-Marie Benoit did not commit suicide. He was brutally murdered. The declaration is from bishops of Cameroon during a press briefing in Yaoundé this week. Let's watch this report. I'll be right back.
The bishops of Cameroon says Bishop Jean-Marie Benoit was assassinated. The fifth point of the declaration made public June 13th and presented to the press this June 14th in a briefing by the President of the National Episcopal Conference of Cameroon, His Grace Samuel Kleda, read by the Deputy Secretary General.
The tragic death of Bishop Jean-Marie Benoit has shocked and upset the people of Cameroon, the people of God, all Cameroonians, and international opinion. From the initial findings, we, the bishops of Cameroon, affirm that His Lordship Jean-Marie Benoit did not commit suicide. He was brutally assassinated. This is one more murder, one far too much.
Crimes like this, the bishop says, makes them feel they are being persecuted by some obscure and devilish forces. Examples abound.
We are thinking especially of His Grace Archbishop Yves Plumet Ngaoundéré, 1991. Reverend Father Joseph Mbassi, Yaoundé, 1988. Reverend Father Anthony Fonte, Kumbo, 1990. Reverend Sisters of Jum in 1992. Reverend Father Engelbert Veng, Yaoundé, 1995, just to name a few.
His Grace Samuel Kleda says they denounce falsehood, defamation and calumny, waiting for proofs concerning allegations spreading that the bishop was killed for denouncing a sect of homosexuals. The bishops call on all to be courageous as Christ has conquered the world, ushering Christians to intensify their faith, praying for the men of God and for peace and justice in the country. To this moment, the corpse is still under custody of the judicial authority. Investigation still on. While bearing their grief, they call on the government to clarify and make known their findings. Cameroon's 2018 budget under discussion already at the National Assembly. The members of the Finance and Budget Committee of the Lower House of Parliament had before them the Minister of Finance defending the country's draft bill ratifying the ordinance of the head of state signed May 17 to raise the ceiling of our debts.
Non-concessional borrowing, the ceiling has been moved from 500 billion to 1,200 billion. concessional loans remain at 500 billion. This is to make our government be able to implement some of the projects being evaluated and necessary for the implementation of our development plan. And at the same time, we had to the part of AFCON 2019 up to 130 billion, just to make sure that all the projects being executed are going to help us meet our targets rightly.
Cameroon's debt, which stands at 30% of the country's gross domestic product, the finance boss says is viable.
Our debt level is 30% of our GDP, and it is sustainable so far. We have made analysis in terms of viability, sustainability. This is all okay so far, and we want to continue to maintain this sustainability and viability for our debt.
Which is the mission of Finance Ministry, the minister added, through the Public Debt Commission, and it is important it should be kept under control for future generations to take advantage of today's investment. The Minister of State Property, Service and Land Tenure, Jacqueline Kung Abesike, on her part had to defend a technical cooperation accord signed with the state of Tunisia concerning land matters, with a view of providing assistance and supporting mutually their efforts to develop and modernize the land activities, particularly through three corporations areas: technical assistance, training of executive officers, and execution of projects. Ratifying the agreement will enable Cameroon to benefit from Tunisia's experience in rational and optimal land management. A plastic recycling firm installed in Yaoundé. Situated at the Hala neighborhood, the outskirts of Yaoundé, Name recycles about 500 kilograms of plastic in an hour. The finished product then sold to companies.
Those bottles are really going through our process to have those powder that you saw. And this powder is what we're selling to other company or giving to other company so that they can include them in their process, production process, for example.
Inaugurated this 14th June by the representative of the Minister of Environment, Nature Protection and Sustainable Development. Name Recycling is a laudable project, especially at this point in time.
Particularly are those which can harbor some water, dirty water, and this creates a conducive environment for mosquitoes. It blocks our gutters, creating a lot of flooding, and then you have it creates equally an unconducive environment for agriculture.
The Ministry of Environment, Nature Protection and Sustainable Development partners with NAME to tell the population there is a place for these plastics.
Yes, today we can say we have a plastic company. You know where today to take your bottles. You can take them to this company, and they have an incentive measures they have put up in to help our population, to encourage them to bring these plastic bottles. So today we can have it at your neighborhood. You collect the plastic bottles either through your various initiatives, and you can bring it to this company, or they will pass around and collect it. And so we are comfortably saying that there is a measure that the government has put in place in order to be able to handle the problem of plastic waste pollution in Cameroon.
This factory, the second of its kind in the country, after that of Limbe, Southwest region, but the vision is to cover the national territory. Through the project baptized Zero Plastics in the Towns, Name Recycling invites households to open saving accounts of plastic bottles and gain the numerous prizes, this after gaining a certain number of points.
Welcome back, Charles Ako. After watching the reports on the declaration of bishops of Cameroon, what was your immediate reaction?
Very pathetic, because before the bishops would draw a conclusion on an incident which is still under official investigation, I think they would have had a gist about what really happened. Because the conclusion was that the bishop was assassinated. They didn't cast any doubts about the circumstances of his death. They were categorical about that. So I think their pronouncement this week was a clear pointer to the fact that the judicial inquiry that is set up by the government should set aside certain political considerations, social, tribalistic considerations, and work to get the results. Because when you look at the circumstances around the death of the man of God, the Archbishop of Bafia, and all the pep talk around his death, there is something to it that the eye can see, or that we can say, actually. So it needs a thorough investigation to bring out what really led to the death of the man of God. And if the bishops came out this loud and clear on that fact, it means we need to get what really happened to the Archbishop not long from now. That's
now,
very
the
important.
bishop in the declaration said it's not the first time.
Yes. And you remember the cited cases, Anjabembeng in Yaoundé, the sisters in the south, Archbishop Fonte, Father Fonte in the northwest. There are so many cases of deaths of bishops around the country in the past years. I think it's the death of bishops is becoming like so compelling and provoking social thinking and talk about that, because there are people with a specific character, people who are ordained to take care of God's people, to lead God's people to eternity. And so when something happens to them, it becomes public concern. Unlike we have deaths all over around, people die in circumstances. But when it concerns people who have some public aura, it becomes something else. And if these people have authority over the lives of thousands of people, then their deaths should concern the people. And that's why everybody wants the investigations to be carried out without bias and the results made public. And those who might be found wanting brought to book.
Now, the funeral program that was scheduled for Wednesday has been cancelled and pushed forward. No one knows when. Do you think the Vatican is like mounting some sort of pressure?
Well, I think the Vatican appointed the Archbishop, and the Vatican should have a say in his death and investigations on the circumstances that led to his death. I think postponing the funeral program, to me, it's not a problem. What is important is to clear the air around the death of the Archbishop.
Now, what are you expecting from the investigations, that those that did it be brought to limelight and sanctions?
That is what every Cameroonian is aspiring for. We need those who are responsible, because if the bishops of Cameroon come out clearly and say he was assassinated, then we expect the commission either to debunk what the bishops of Cameroon said or to prove it. So we are expecting that something should come out to clear public opinion and public confusion over the death of the Archbishop.
Now, why bishops? Why priests? That is a question on every lip.
Well,
why not pastors? Why just the priest?
Like I said earlier, you know, why not pastors? Well, it's because it's recurrent with the Catholic Church. It's recurrent with the Catholic Church, and people start asking, why only the Catholic Church? And you see that the Catholic Church in many societies, in Europe, in Africa, they're the most vocal of religious, of ecumenical bodies. They're the most vocal. If you look at the political crisis in the Democratic Republic of Congo, it's the Catholic Church that came up to reconcile the warring political factions, until the president of the DRC, Joseph Kabila, had to toe the line and accept that he was going to retire. It's because the archbishops or the Catholic Church in the DRC put more pressure. And if you look at many political movements in the world, you see that people of God, and especially the Catholic Church, has been very, very influential. And if you look at the situation in Cameroon, even before independence, those who led the struggle for independence have always been people who are related to the Catholic Church. Monseigneur Ndih is one of those people who led the struggle for Cameroon's independence. And so the Catholic Church has, in many circumstances, proven that it is on the side of the people. It has to talk about what concerns the people. And when something now happens to the Catholic Church, which is like the voice of the people, it becomes a concern for the people. I think that is why when it hits the Catholic Church, it becomes a public issue.
Now, what can be done to end all this?
Well, I think it's public. It should appeal to personal, institutional, and social conscience. Personally, there are some people who may feel that because they are so vocal or they take positions on certain issues, they don't go down well with them. Secondly, institutions may feel that when the Catholics come out against their policies, it's threatening their position as an institution and as individuals who man the institutions. And socially, if the Catholics come to condemn social ills, the public may tend either to ally with them or not to ally with them. So the problem here is for public, individual, and institutional consciences to be cleared on what the Catholic Church and the archbishops say about issues that concern the public.
Which means that investigations should be made public?
Yes, of course. That's what we...
To calm down tempers.
That's what I suggest.
The cartel of businessmen Shikam wants our female entrepreneurs to have a grip on Cameroon's economy. The businesswomen are undergoing training in Cameroon's economic city Douala. Let's watch this report. I'll be right back. Since 2003, Elizabeth Ndih has been dedicating her time to train young Cameroonians and the insertion of the physically impaired in society. A project she transforms into an enterprise, but access to finance is a veritable nightmare.
We have a lot of women in business, but the thing is that they have obstacles that men don't have, and the conferences that are going to be held are especially held to point out those obstacles and see how women can manage them, and also for men to be aware of certain constraints that women face and that they don't face.
Just like Elizabeth, many other Cameroonian female entrepreneurs are going through tough times when it comes to financing their projects. Cultural barriers is another hindrance.
Women also have to take care of the whole of the house, to take care of the children, to manage all the household and so on. And if there is anything happening, for instance, if a child is ill, it's the woman who's going to devote her time for that and not the man. So, which means that she will not devote as much time as men to their businesses.
Making women contribute in the economic strength of the nation is the ambition of the cartel of businessmen, JICAM.
When women are managing, they are better than men. So we are emphasizing our trainings on the benefit of women because we want them to have the leadership of management in business in this country.
The thematic conference on female entrepreneurship, launched on May 14 in Douala, assembles close to 300 Cameroonian business women. They will be trained on leadership skills, connected family matters with business affairs, parity, business climate, and others. According to statistics from the International Labour Organization, Hortense is battling between life and death at the Sang-Milima District Hospital. She was stabbed by her fiancé Maurice, who accused her of infidelity. He came to the house and asked the wife to pack the children's things, and he was taking them away. He asked the wife why she was staying back, and when she responded, insisting she has to help out her parents, he threatened her, telling her he would deal with her. Immediately, he fell on her. I started screaming. When people started coming, he escaped. In the surgical block, doctors are battling to save her life. For 3 hours, they examined the gravity of the wounds. According to medical doctors, her life is out of danger. Maurice, the fiancé, is still on the run. Investigations have been opened to track him down. Welcome back. I'm still accompanied by Charles Ako. He is journalist and a communicator of the Cameroon Chamber of Commerce, Mines and Handicraft. Now we're talking about female entrepreneurs, and they have a big problem in Cameroon. Their problem is access to finances. Now, what's your say on that?
I think during the last Cameroon Business Forum, this issue came up. Because if you look at the economic fabric of Cameroon, those who constitute small and medium-sized enterprises, majority of them are the women. Why? Because the women don't have that leverage to have access to finances like you did say. Because the economy is structured in a way that those who have been manning the economy for all this while are men. And so it becomes very difficult at times for people even to accept that the women have that prowess to manage the economy. But things are changing in Cameroon today. If you look at the statistics of small and medium-sized enterprises, you will find that an impressive number of women are involved, especially startups. In the
The statistics show that
section.
9 out of 10 women are in the informal sector.
Of course.
And contribute 80% to the national economy.
And that is where the problem becomes so biting. We start asking the question, why is it that these women form a greater part of the informal sector that is so commensurate and important for the Cameroonian economy, yet they don't have access to financing? There was a bank, there's a bank that was created to finance small and medium-sized enterprises. Officials were installed, but it's not yet functional. We don't understand why. But at times, the problem becomes so strong that you ask why. Even other people can't have access to financing. There is a problem of confidence within the banking sector in Cameroon, because there are many banks and other financial institutions that complain about the fact that when people come and take loans, they become unable to pay back the loans. And then the banks feel the pinch, because once the hole is burst in the bank and it is not refilled, it is the bank and the customer that have a problem, because the bank has an obligation to pay back the money of the customer. And you who comes to borrow the money, you put it in business and you cannot run, because we have something here in Cameroon where we have ideas to build businesses, but we don't have ideas to keep the businesses running. And so people have it in a way that they conceive those ideas and they feel that if they have to partner, it becomes a problem. That is why in an institution like the Chamber of Commerce, they encourage people who have to come to cluster. If you have an idea, maybe in terms of building a company, I have an idea in terms of financing that company, we can cluster to make sure that we build that institution. But here in Cameroon, we do not still have this culture. So when you bring an idea, you come up with it, you dabble around with it like
you
a
want,
sole
you want
business.
to work, you just want to work alone.
Exactly.
You don't want to.
So that habit of cohabiting is not yet with us. That is why the banks mostly do not have confidence
But
in
the
our
banks
small
should,
and
don't you think it's
medium-sized
time for banks to
enterprises.
have confidence in women?
No, the women should prove it.
By doing what?
By telling the banks they will have to have collateral securities. They have to prove to the banks that when they take the loans, they will have the capacity to pay back. Because we've had instances where banks have to come to complain that they've given out loans, they have not been able to recover the loans. Because somewhere along the line, the businesses crumble.
But it's the same
I
with
don't know
men.
what-
We have had men
Of course.
who have had nursed ideas, transforming into an enterprise, and it still collapsed.
Of course, this is something
I
general.
will have success stories of women who have succeeded.
Of course, and if we have to look at the women, it's because the women form majority of the informal sector, which if harnessed, it's a pointer and a great help to the Vision 2035 emergence in Cameroon. Because the focus now is moving the informal sector to the formal sector. That is where the challenge is. And the informal sector is constituted mostly of women. That is where the accent on women becomes so strong. But it is something general where banks are a little bit apprehensive of giving out loans to help startups especially. But they can easily give out loans to institutions that are well established because they know they have the possibility of recovering that money. I think the problem is confidence and proof that you are a reliable partner.
And what should the women do?
The women, like I said, it becomes a strategic issue. They should cluster because you have women who hang around and do the same products. For instance, we have women who transform agricultural products. Same products, same quality, but ask them, why don't you form like an organization where you can easily lobby for finances even out of Cameroon here? Because there is a saying that when you want to go a journey further, don't go alone, go with many people. When you cluster, they see the strength of those people. That's where the bank knows that if you gather your efforts, you may be able to share those ideas and sustain your projects. But if you go alone, there's the possibility that when you are not able to sustain the project, it becomes difficult for you to pay back the loans. And that is why they've always been encouraging SMEs to cluster. form groups that could be stronger as a bargaining force to get financing. And that is the advice we always give. SMEs should know that to work hard, they should create a pool. It is not just for nothing that the chamber talks about clustering. Because, like, let me just cite an example. When they were developing the Chad Cameroon pipeline, it was difficult for the World Bank and those who were developing the project to find welders in Cameroon. Not that the welders were not there, but that the welders were not clustered. They were not in a group where they could easily be identified. So welders had to be imported from Argentina and South America because they had cartels, they had groups, they had a stronger bargaining force. And that is why the Cameroonian business community now understood the need to cluster. That's why with the program which the chamber has put in place, I'm not talking on behalf of the chamber, it's just because I happen to be there, it encourages startups, SMEs to identify same areas of concern, same products of concern, same areas of interest. The cluster build up business plans that they can present that could be more interesting and more promising, without which if you go solo, you may not be as strong as a group that comes to compete with you.
I want to thank you for honoring the invitation.
It's my pleasure.
And to you out there, say thank you for watching. Do take a rendezvous same time next week. Goodbye.